r/AskReddit, nsfw, what's the hardest drug you've done so far? Heroin. Just the once. I remember thinking, wow, I feel so good that I could be lying in a pile of broken glass and piss right now and I wouldn't even mind. That experience told me everything I needed to know about heroin. Heroin, meth, and cocaine. I lost everything because of heroin. I'm 6 years clean now and I'm grateful to have a second chance. Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? I used to inject meth in my body for years. Wow, amazing experiences. Pretty tough life though. 4 years sober now, smiley face. Cooked coke to smoke it as crack. It's not even a pleasant high, it leaves you paranoid as fuck, but it's incredibly addictive and will gradually consume every thought you have until you're left an empty shell of your former self. 0/10 would not recommend. Edit. Great, one of my most upvoted comments is about me smoking crack, ha ha ha. Intentionally and willingly, weed. I was, however, born addicted to heroin. LSD and mushrooms, back in the 1980s. Admittedly, some of the best fun I've ever had. Truthfully, nicotine. I've done a lot of other ones, but that's by far the hardest just because it's almost impossible for me to quit. Never got hooked on anything else though, just the nic. Ketamine. I've never really been someone that takes drugs. A single toke on a joint made with the weakest weed will send me into cold sweats, paranoia and an early bedtime. Never really been interested in cocaine or Molly, etc. Alcohol is all I really need if I'm going out. But when I was 18, 10 years ago, I'd been on a night out in Brighton and got separated from my friends, ended up going to a party with some strangers, who were really nice, and afterwards they said that they were going to get some K. I didn't really know what that was but went along with it, and then went back to their flat with them. I asked if I could have a line and they said that was fine, and gave me quite a small one. Didn't feel anything, so asked for another a few minutes later. They obliged. I still didn't feel anything, so ended up doing quite a big line, and shortly after that I ended up in the corner of the room hugging my knees to my chest. The flat we were in was on the 9th floor of an enormous tower block. I hallucinated that this flat was the only one in the entire building that had its lights turned on at that moment. If you were standing on the pavement outside and you looked up at the tower block, this flat on the 9th floor would appear as a small orange rectangle against the night sky, almost like an orange-flavored sweet. I dreamed that I was chewing on that small orange sweet, and suddenly my canine came through the ceiling, and everything was spinning out of control because myself and the people in the flat were inside my mouth and I was chewing on us. It was surreal and terrifying to see my own tooth crashing down and nearly killing me and the other people in the room. Woke up the next morning on an armchair with a blanket draped over me. I had no hangover whatsoever, despite the fact that before taking ketamine that night I drank quite a lot. I immediately got up and left the house without saying goodbye to anybody. I found some tissue in my pocket and blew my nose. I looked at the tissue and it was Jackson Pollock with blood. That was the last time I did drugs. Heroin, fentanyl. Been clean since 2016, after a 28-day coma. I once drank tap water from Missouri. Coke when it was offered. The high isn't worth the price of actually buying it, to me at least. Way overhyped. The hardest drug I've done so far is definitely coffee. That caffeine addiction is one tough habit to break. I'm a recovering addict whose first drug was PCP but was later addicted to heroin and crack. But I'ma say the hardest was when I took meth by accident cause someone told me it was Molly and felt the same from when we used to do e-pills. It was not and did not. 7 years clean though thanks to methadone. Alcohol. Weed from a dab pen. It was my first time at about 30 yo. Apparently a large inhale for my first time was enough to make me cough for 5 minutes straight, then just be a vegetable for a bit until I puked. Have no interest in doing it again, lol. Molly. Acid. 2 hits was 1. 5 too many. The countertops were constantly moving, my wife's hair was constantly flowing, like a hair waterfall. I peed in the toilet, and the bubbles that it made started to fill the bathroom. I knew it wasn't real, but it was too damn real. My wife was a goddess, and in every timeline throughout history, we found ourselves together until the very end. There was no clear end, like I didn't see how we died, but we grew old together in 1000 timelines, some of which weren't of this world. And she had a similar experience. So, it reaffirmed to both of us that we are supposed to be together. One of the best and scariest experiences I've ever had, all in one. And it lasts 12 to 14 hours. So when that crazy train leaves the station, there's no turning back. DMT. Definitely LSD to anyone who tries it. Don't make any plans because you will be high for a long time. But it is one of the most pleasurable experiences I've ever had. Heroin and meth. Meth, crank, ketamine, ecstasy, coke. I would count them all in the same category of hard drug though, as I don't think one is harder than the other. Also, don't snort a big fat line of ketamine. Terrible fucking idea. I've done meth, but nothing compares to the salvia trip I had. Other dimension sorta trip. Didn't remember you existence before you entered it. A toxic woman with incredible sex. I'm not sure what people consider harder, coke or LSD. Depends on how you look at it. The worst for me personally was Xanax. It was nearly the end of me. But I've done coke, painkillers, gabapentin, Adderall, arguably crack, and technically heroin. In high school, me and friends experimented with acid. Most of the stuff we got was mid-grade quality, and I thought I was an experienced user. Had some high-quality lab-grade stuff one time and honestly didn't think I was gonna ever be normal again, and swore if I came out of it sane that I'd never touch the drug again, and I never have. Sugar. Binging on chocolate chip cookies. Love. It's a hell of a drug and can wreck your life. Alcohol probably. Way too addictive, but in a sneaky way cause it's legal and literally everywhere. Cocaine might be really close second. And after you'll find MDMA, shrooms, DMT. And last is the lovely LSD. Chemotherapy. I wish I had some deadpan joke about how hard life/existing is, but I don't. So shrooms. Having the willpower to take a breath of air is pretty hard at this point in life. Salvia is seriously underrated and it's legal. Meth. Made me realize I had ADHD, cause for once I could focus on shit and get things done. Life was great. I could sleep at night. House stayed clean. My thoughts weren't a jumbled mess. I could get from point A to B without tripping myself up. I actually got a promotion at work because I stayed on task. Only quit cause the person I was getting it from said they loved using fentanyl and I was afraid of getting something with fentanyl, so I stopped. I keep forgetting to set an appointment to get tested for ADHD, try to stay on task, and it's a struggle. Too much caffeine puts me to sleep. I have lists and I still forget things. I have to write things down so I can remember stuff and follow a train of thought. I have horrible time blindness, so I set an alarm for everything. Life is difficult and I cry in frustration. I just need to see a DR already because this is affecting my quality of life. Everything except meth. Back in the 90s and the dance rave scene, I was mostly on ecstasy. Few years of that and my tolerance was at a level of having maybe 3/4 pills on a night out and always double dropping the first hit. Fucked me up in the end. I had complete brain blackouts. Even straight I'd be talking and then totally forget what I was saying and just stop. It was like my brain definitely wasn't firing on all cylinders anymore. During that time before I completely quit for my own health, the hardest I'd been into was coke. It was pretty rare and expensive back in those days on the rave scene. Good times though, but I had to quit it. 5-6 years of every weekend was too much. Doom scrolling. Alcohol for sure. Porn. I know a lot of people probably just rolled their eyes, but it's super easy to consume nowadays, and the serotonin/dopamine hit you get from it means you can avoid serious relationships and just live in a fantasy world with digital women. Long-term use of it has warped my mind on how I view women and relationships. Datura, but didn't feel much. Nicotine is the hardest to quit from everything I've tried. That Fetty Wap had me W1 close talkin' 1738. Heroin and meth 4 at the same time. Sober 5 years in February. Synthetic weed, it was quite a long time ago, it probably was different to what's around today. Most of them. Tried variety of things in my 20s. Pretty much all except ice and age. Mostly a waste of time or negative long term. Edibles and alcohol are my jams now. Women. Nice try, Mr. FBI man. I take Ambien and Lunsta sometimes to help fall asleep. I probably shouldn't. Only 4/20ths for me. Love. Shit is fucking brutal. Depends on what you consider the hardest. Heroin, meth, cocaine, LSD, fentanyl, DMT, morphine, oxys, etc. If it was in front of me, I not only tried it, I abused it. Celebrated 5 years sober in July, folded hands, light skin tone. When I broke my femur they gave me morphine for the pain. It didn't touch it, so my EMT got authorization from a doctor to give me ketamine and fentanyl. That was the best ambulance ride of my life. When I got to the hospital the EMT gave me more fentanyl and I was feeling fantastic. Then nurses brought me to the X-ray room and they had to move me around a bunch, which obviously was going to hurt. The doctor asked me when the last time I had any painkillers was and I lied because I was insanely high, so they gave me more fentanyl. For the next couple hours I felt like I was floating on a cloud above my body. It was incredible. I had a dedicated nurse at my side to make sure my breathing didn't stop. I totally understand how people get addicted to it. Nothing will ever feel that amazing again. Cool Ranch Doritos. Started when I was only 5 years old. Ket. Hallucinated the whole night, sat there staring out doing nothing. Caffeine. I value my life. Ketamolic acid. Hell of a mixture. I mean, it's not technically confirmed, but when I was 16 I was smoking weed with a dude I knew from school and he kept saying shit like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if I laced this with PCP and shit like that. Then I freaked out and he was like, oh, I didn't actually do it, haha, but I'm pretty sure he did. I was tripping so hard I couldn't see straight. Then I started walking home because I was freaking TF out and I hallucinated a car coming at me full speed. I heard the engine rev and everything. I swear I saw a car coming at me full speed, flinched, and then when I looked up half expecting to be paralyzed or something, nothing was there. There wasn't a car anywhere near me. Then I just went home, freaked out a little more and slept it off. Morphine/Oxycontin. Used to be very addicted to pain meds when I was 15-16 years old. Haven't done pills in over a decade now. Still smoke weed, so can't say I'm sober, but glad I don't fuck with anything else. Define hard. I guess oxycodone or cocaine. Psychedelics feel pretty hard too. Luckily never got addicted. Ketamine gave me a month of panic attacks, so I guess it's the hardest for me. Ecstasy/MDMA, but overdosing on weed edibles became the scariest. MDMA was a fun vibe, everything felt great and felt love for everyone, until one party, people were doing way harder drugs on the bathroom, so the atmosphere got weird and depressing. Now, weed edibles, accidentally overdosed and thought of the world as a simulation where my life was like an anti-drug PSA that, inside my head, every action and event around me concluded in me jumping through a window. So I told my GF to not let me leave the bathroom, but even that was part of the plan. Spent what felt like eternity fighting those thoughts until, in my attempt to break that fate, felt my body/mind breaking down into a perpetual glitch/loop, basically breaking the simulation. Only managed to come out of it by rebuilding all of life's concepts, sounds, ideologies, landscapes, time, memories within my own head, and vomiting a lot. Took 5 to 7 hours to come out of. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to never miss an upload.